Got it. So obviously, Casey Mondo and Trend Micro, I have no official job title, so that's why I didn't put one. But I'm going to talk to you a little bit today. This is a presentation which I give that is sliced down to a nice 20-minute format. So we're going to just touch the runway a little bit and take back off again. And any questions, please obviously put them in the chat. Let me know after if I spark your interest in any way. You'll have my contact information, so please feel free to get in touch, and we can have a much longer, in-depth conversation. Welcome that at any time. So, as I said to start off, a lot of the things that are going to empower our organizations to help ourselves are also empowering our adversaries at an ever increasing and alarming clip. Some of these tools fall into, or most of the tools fall into, three distinct categories. Phishing, which we should all be intimately familiar with at this point. Deepfake impersonation, which is something new to most people for 2023, 2024. Then we get into, like Ron was mentioning, ransomware as a service, or even, criminal GPT style services. So where I used a friendly one to make me this nice background, despite violating probably some copyright somewhere. There are entire services being spun up where you can just think of it as the dark web for ChatGPT, right? So dark ChatGPT, if you will. And then automating or creating an AI and setting it loose to do a lot of the tasks and things that a human would do in terms of fuzzing applications, finding vulnerabilities, finding vulnerable systems that are openly accessible to the web. A lot of these things have been done before. In fact, all of these things, frankly, have been done before. This is nothing new. But what is new is the easy access and application to these, previously to this rise of ChatGPT were very expensive services that only very few people had. And now we're democratizing, unfortunately, these assistance tools, which has both a positive and negative spin. So for the purposes of this presentation, I'm just going to focus on one aspect, which is the phishing piece. Okay. And when I was actually making this presentation specifically for Angelbeat, I started just doing some Google News searches and just wanted to give some basic headlines, which I'm sure you've all seen. So, back in November, we're predicting ChatGPT is going to shoot up in phishing emails. And then, of course, we're going to get a rise in ransomware, which anytime you write a news article, if you just want to say ransomware will increase in 2027, you'll probably be correct, right? And then the most alarming one I saw came out just a couple weeks ago, which is a woman had a conversation with her CFO on Zoom and sent out a $25 million payment as a result of that conversation based on what that person on video was telling them to do. Unfortunately, that was an entirely deepfake presentation from the CFO, where she was not having a conversation with that human being. She was having a conversation with an entirely different human being who had a very sophisticated system which completely faked her into sending out a very large payment. And I don't know about you, but I can resist phishing emails or calls with the best of them. However, I'm not sure even I could raise my hand and truthfully tell you if I had a conversation with my CEO or CFO and I was empowered to send out $25 million if I could resist that. So we're seeing this rise of AI-enabled attacks, and it's coming rapidly and it's scaling on itself. Okay. So I mentioned we're just going to touch on one piece, which is just a phishing example here, where in the past, we've had a couple of different options, or adversaries have had a couple of different options when it comes to crafting phishing email campaigns. So either they can do one message where they say, here is the payload I'm going to be delivering via malicious attachment, maybe a link that they're going to click on. Maybe it's a little bit longer. Maybe they just ask you to take some action, or they send a QR code. They make one message and then they get some type of mass mailing list. And then they spam that message out to a million different people, hoping that it resonates with 1, 2, 3, a handful, right? In terms of cost, This is very low cost, low effort. I'm not going to call them outright amateurs, but you don't need to be very sophisticated to engage in this type of attack, which is why we all have spam folders that are filled with emails like this. And occasionally some make their way through, and hopefully we're recognizing them and not clicking on strange links. And then you flip over to what it used to look like for a sophisticated attacker, where they're able to craft individual messages, deliver them manually, and target individuals, right? So these are more successful individual email campaigns. But in terms of the entropy and the cost and the time to do these things, it takes a lot more effort to craft a message that's targeted at one person or one organization. And so they have a higher success rate per email, but of course, the cost to do these things is much higher, right? So you definitely tend to see things on the left versus things on the right, but they're both still somewhat effective. This is just a sample email to our buddy Todd. And again, this should follow a format that everybody's intimately familiar with. Poor English. That's probably why most of us on this call would laugh it off. Maybe we're not members of the Bank of the Peoples, but certainly we've all seen Bank of America, right? Or Chase or Schwab or any other national brand. Maybe hopefully that the email or the phone number it has us call is in the country that we're located in. This is an example of that left column where one email, mass send out. Hopefully we run into somebody named Todd who is at the Bank of Peoples, who is in the right area code, speaks English, doesn't notice that it's poorly formatted, clicks the link, and then something bad happens to him. Okay. So now we move into the world of using LLMs and chat GPTs and the like. And as an attacker who is low skill, low effort, I can now ask this to make an email for me. And I can say, hey, there's a CFO named Todd, and I want to send Todd an email from his COO and sign off on a PO from a CRM tool. And here's what we get. So now Todd has a much better looking email with a link that perhaps is malicious, and asking him to go ahead and just click this, just make it easy for me and improve the PO. Now, in and of itself, just the ability for an attacker to upcycle the language on this, right? For native English speakers, of course, is very dangerous. When users are clicking the one that looks terrible, the number of people that are going to click these is much, much higher. Now I'm going to combine it with some of those other methodologies that attackers are using AI for. What if I was a low-skilled attacker and I suddenly got the ability to speak to you in your language in a proper way, and I asked it how to craft an attack? Maybe that link, now contains a beacon that I learned how to make because I was asking that dark chat GPT, or I've now upcycled my own attacks, and it's an even deadlier email. And even worse is, what if Todd's French? I don't speak French. I speak English. And as an attacker, if I only spoke English, but Todd was the CEO of a French company, I would want to make sure that it was delivered in his native language, because maybe Todd's not clicking any emails that come in English because he knows better. But here's one that's going to help him take his guardrails down just a little bit more. A formal email from somebody else in his organization who happens to speak French. It's written in French. There's no issues here. Todd's going to go ahead and click that link. And I'm not sure very many people could actually blame him at a certain point. I mean, I would, but not too many people. So basically speaking, this is that one domain where the simple application, even at the most basic level of these tools and tool sets, is taking that left-hand column where we have attackers who used to just spam those mass market emails, and we're turning them into that right column, but at a much higher scale. So now they can reach far more people with targeted attacks. One thing I wanted to mention too, when we have Todd with that CRM tool, what if in that AI prompt, I asked it to troll the web and say, hey, find me lists of companies who are participating in CRM webinars, right? Or maybe Angelbeat seminars on AI. And I happen to get a list of these things. Now I know that Todd was looking at CRM tools, and now I have him a little bit more dead to rights to. So what's Trend doing about this? There's many different things, but the first thing I want to start with, and I actually want to echo Martin from Trellix, who called this out as well. Before you engage with any partner that uses your data in an AI model, I would highly encourage you to make sure they publicly and visibly have a privacy policy posted about your data and how they're going to interact with the AI. Just from a high level, Trend absolutely anonymizes everything. We call that out in our privacy policy. The link is there. I know Ron sends out a PDF. So if you wanted to read it, it's there. You can also Google it as well. And I actually checked all the vendors on this call have their privacy policies posted. So kudos to them. But this is critically important because I've spent a weekend at DEF CON red teaming GPT models, and I can tell you that they leak data like a sieve. So you absolutely do not want to make it any easier for these attackers to just get your data out of that model. And it happens all the time. And it's still young and immature, right? We'll get to where it's a lot more secure, but just as a best practice, please make sure that any vendor that does business with you and your data, company's data, is treating it properly, or at least they say they're going to treat it properly. Okay. So much in the way that we have all of these tools that attackers are using, we can now apply these tools to your own team to help uplift them and enhance their skill sets. Okay. So whether that's giving them the more in-depth knowledge about the things they're looking at, whether that's the underlying products that we're applying some of these new and exciting AI methodologies to, we are, playing that proverbial cat and mouse game where our adversaries do one thing and we're just going to build on that, use those same tools and fight back. One method or one piece of what Trend is doing in my 20 minutes is something called Companion, which is a tool that's available within our Vision One XDR platform. But what this is boiled down to is like an AI assistant for the XDR platform itself. So you are going to be able to have the AI, and I'm going to just start playing a video here really quickly, but we're going to skip through it. If the video would even play, which it's not, but that's okay. So this is a small, I have screenshots just in case. So this is a tool which you can ask common language questions of. So in the video use case, we had a workbench incident where credentials were being dumped. So this was within the Trend Vision One tool. It alerted the user or the SOC that said, hey, we have a user that's involved in what looks like to be credential dumping. Here's all of the various data about that incident. And traditionally, a SOC analyst would see this. They would do their typical investigation of the tool in the commands itself, and then they would take proper action. What Companion allows you to do is ask questions of the system. Say, hey, I don't really understand what this workbench is about. Could you give me something about the impact? And then it can give you a summary and say, here is this incident. Here's the typical impact of this. It ties to a MITRE technique. And then maybe if you don't understand about the MITRE technique, you can say, what is the MITRE technique? Or moving on, we can talk about the command lines that were involved. This, again, was a command as to dumping credentials. Here was a command that was involved in that. I can just click right in the console and say, tell me about this command. What does this do? Now, any SOC analyst out there probably knows what a lot of these things do, but nobody's perfect, right? Maybe they know a little bit about one command, but not the other. Or maybe they can't, as a human, process all of the various intricacies that could be involved, or the paths of attack that could be involved with running this command. So they can just ask Companion, what are some of the things that can happen here, or what's happening in this specific environment with this specific case? So when it tells them, hey, look, you've got users that are, this is used to dump, registry keys that might contain passwords, then you can say, well, if this user is involved with that, can you help me search the rest of my environment looking for techniques that match this? Or if I had a user that clicked, I don't know, if his name was Todd and he clicked a link in a banking email that he shouldn't have clicked, or a CRM email, can you show me every other user that has clicked that link? And this is possible on the platform already. Sometimes it involves creating regex strings. Sometimes it involves a deeper understanding of the product. Now in a common language, I can just ask it, or in simple language, I can say, hey, show me everybody who clicked this link, and it will generate that search for me and help me get to that visibility a lot faster. And then one more step on that is the actual response action itself. So now I can say, hey, great, thank you for finding all of those emails for me that that user clicked, or thanks for finding all the identifiers, or thanks for finding all the emails within the inboxes for my entire organization. Now, as a response action, I want to delete those, or I want to quarantine those, or that user that had their password compromised. Let's go ahead and reset their accounts. Or if I have 5,000 users who this command was run on, let's reset their passwords en masse. And this is what that companion can help you do. So all of the tools are still there. This is just enhancing your ability to interact with those tools, and then also enhancing your SOC analysts or your security analysts' ability to utilize what's already in front of them to help speed up the response. Getting cheekier for just a moment. I mentioned privacy at the beginning. And as an organization, if you decide that, hey, I really want to go ahead and see users who are actually using artificial intelligence tools within my organization, we can have use the same filters that we use to detect AI from an adversarial standpoint, and we can help you identify, hey, look, these are the people that are using that within your organization, and you can make a decision organizationally as to what you want to do with that information, up to and including blocking it, right? I believe, as Martin was mentioning as well. So, hey, the same thing that we're detecting with, we can also help you internally block. One of the benefits of having been in business as long as Trend is we get to brag about things that we've been doing for a very long time, much longer than probably some organizations have even existed. But in terms of machine learning and artificial intelligence, we've been doing this for quite a while. So starting 2003 with our email product, we had phishing ML detection, and then we've only built from there, right? I mentioned the phishing example as one single identifier, but AI exists everywhere today, as does machine learning, especially in the field of security. You wouldn't be in business today if you were not using some type of ML within your security product. So we do a lot across the board, both things that customers see, things that customers don't. Particularly important, like in lateral movement, as an example. Typically, we would install network sensors in places, but today we can almost have like a virtual network sensor where, because we can fill in the gaps with our AI modeling and machine learning, we can almost act as if you had a network sensor in place, maybe if it's disabled or you don't. Ron, that I believe is almost my time, so I want to turn it over if there's any questions